So Trump announced the deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Congratulations to all. I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz, and as if like it's been waiting on Trump to authorize the opening of the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, we had the blockade.
Yeah. He's fully authorized a toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz, and simultaneously herewith, he's using official language. That's how you know that this is an official deal. Authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade. Ships of the world, start your engines. Let the oil flow. President Donald J. Trump. I got to caution everyone. Now listen, first off, Charlie and I and all the other panicans out there, people have mistaken what it is that we want. We want an end to this war. And we have said many times, numerous times, that I don't think Trump wants some 20-year engagement where we're fighting some kind of long, drawn-out ground war against Iran. I don't think Trump wants that at all. So I haven't been super worried about that. And we have been hoping that Trump would find a way to just say that this is over. And one of the hardest things about that has been that we're partners in this war with another country that doesn't want the whole thing to be over. And that's been an issue so far. And also, we haven't gotten what we wanted out of Iran really this whole time. Like, they were able to keep the strait blocked, closed down, whatever. They still got their nuclear material, all that stuff. Okay. So
it is dust now, though.
Dust, at least it's dust. Yeah. If this is in fact an end to the war, that's great. I hope that that is the case. I'll caution everyone on this announcement. We first off don't have an actual signed deal of any kind. And this deal is not like the deal, like the treaty or the deal or the end of everything. Like we decided this deal is an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, that essentially would be, okay, we agree to have a ceasefire for another couple months and continue working on a deal. And during that process, we're going to open the strait and you're going to end the blockade. And that's essentially, and then we're going to keep working on the nuclear part of the deal. And that's sort of where we are right now. Now, I think this kind of had to happen. If you've been watching the news on, say, the oil markets and all that, people have been saying that the tanks start to run dry around the 4th of July. And that's where the crap really hits the fan. And I think he's trying to get the oil moving out of this region before that happens to kind of avoid that whole thing. So is this going to happen?
Plus, Trump said from the Oval Office, kind of like just mentioned it. He's like, no one knows this, but I've been releasing millions of barrels of oil.
Yeah. And
otherwise, gas would be at $10 a gallon.
And that's...
So maybe we're running low on the strategic reserve as well.
No, he said releasing. He said that he's been sneaking oil out of the strait. Yeah, that's what he said.
I thought he was releasing
No, he said we've been releasing oil that Iran thinks they have blocked from coming out. That we've been running secret missions. Yeah. We got each, couple guys rolling a barrel out of there at a time, and that they'd gotten 100 million barrels out of there or something like that.
Underwater.
Listen, no one was more shocked than every person in the room with him and everyone that would be involved in this whatsoever to hear that this has been happening. It's pretty well understood that he just made that up right there during that interview. So, yeah, I mean, that's... here's Trump this morning talking about the deal.
Mr. President, when will the text of the MOU be released?
I think pretty soon. I would say, I want it to be released because it's a very powerful document. It's not like the Obama document, which was just a terrible document. This is a very powerful document, and I want it to be released. So probably pretty soon. I would say sometime after Friday. Because the strait opens completely. It's open now, but it opens completely. We'll have all the mines knocked out of, for the most part. We have a lot of lanes right now already.
Mr. President,
so I think sometime in the very near future. Yeah.
So the question here is, when is the text of the MOU going to be released? A lot of people on this side of the aisle of the pond are wondering, like, okay, what's in this deal? Because we're getting a lot of news about what's in the deal, and a lot of it's coming from Iran, and it doesn't like look great. And so there's a lot of people getting very upset. The MAGA crowd are getting very upset about this because, one, they want to go to total war, boots on the ground with Iran and try to destroy the country. Like, they're going to be very, very upset if that doesn't happen. They really don't want the regime to make it out of this whole thing, like, at all. And so they're very upset. They want to see this MOU for some very funny reasons, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Let's try and figure out what's in the deal. This post says expected terms of the U.S.-Iran peace deal. 1, extends the ceasefire between U.S. and Iran for 60 days. 2, begins 60-day negotiation period for technical discussions around Iran's nuclear program. 3, removes U.S. naval blockade and reopens Strait of Hormuz. 4, U.S. will commit to discuss sanctions relief with Iran. 5, U.S. will commit to discuss the release of frozen Iranian funds. 6, peace deal includes permanent end to fighting on all fronts, including Lebanon. And 7, final agreement to be signed on June 19th in Switzerland. We expect to receive more detail on terms shortly. So this is still the final agreement to be signed on Friday, I guess, or whatever day this is to say that they are going to officially start working on all of those other things. And then we'll start working on the deal. But already, he's already saying this MOU is a very strong document. This MOU is better than even Obama's JCPOA
deal.
This agreement that we're going to work on a deal for the next 2 months is already better than the deal that Obama had. Yeah. Just keep that in mind, okay?
Basically, what they're saying is that this could have been an email.
It could have been, yeah.
Could have been an email.
Definitely.
So, hey, did you get the thing that we're going to work on for the next 2 months? Yeah, cool.
So there's been, because we haven't seen any of the text, like we don't know what they're actually negotiating on, there's been a lot of talk and releases from the Iranian side that there's a lot of money involved in this deal. There's been people throwing around releasing frozen funds to the tune of $20-something billion, sanctions relief from all the countries in the area. And then there's also apparently a $300 billion reconstruction fund to help rebuild Iran that could potentially be a part of this deal as well. And so if you can imagine, that's leaving a lot of room for people to mention that this might not be better than Obama's deal. Because for a long time, we heard about the pallets of cash for Iran from the Obama administration, and that was like $1 billion and change.
Yeah, but dude, it was cash. You saw the pictures.
Cash is the problem. This is Bitcoin.
They loaded it up on C-17s, man. Flew it over there. So what kind of mission is that for our soldiers? It's way better if you just put a couple numbers in a computer.
I got a couple clips in here from Vance. This one, he doesn't address the $300 billion thing, I don't think.
Yeah, Gail, as you know, sometimes with these agreements, there are some diplomatic protocols, some technical things to work out. But we plan to release the full text this week. We want the American people to see it. But we've also seen, of course, some misreporting about what's actually in the agreement. We've seen some accurate reporting about what's in the agreement. I think the most important thing for the American people to appreciate is that what this agreement does is really twofold. On the one hand, it ensures that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon while simultaneously opening the Strait of Hormuz. You already see oil prices from a high of $126 a barrel down to about $80 a barrel today. That's a lot of progress. But it also, Gail, fundamentally extends a hand to Iran and says, look.
It's really funny. One of the big measurements I've seen from all the MAGA people today that are happy about this, because there's MAGA people that are very upset about this, Mark Levin's, Lindsey Graham's, those kind of people, very upset about this. I listened to Ben Shapiro's episode this morning because I wanted to hear what he had to say about this whole thing. Everyone's really walking a tightrope right now, not wanting to go off on Trump about this whole thing, but they're just asking questions. and trying to lead their audiences in the direction of being upset with Trump about this whole thing. The people are very happy about this. They keep bringing up the oil prices, which is down to like $80 a barrel. I'm like, look at this big win. I'm like, dude, it was 60 something before the war.
Before the war started.
They didn't have nuclear weapons before the war. We hadn't spent billions of dollars.
They had independent nuclear inspections.
Yeah, they had inspections. Back when we had the deal, like, they were, the terrible Obama deal. Pallets of cash. You remember the pallets of cash?
Yeah.
They had inspections. They the IAEA, they were keeping track of Iran's enrichment, and they had enriched up to 60% for a lot of it. We knew that. They didn't have a nuke. Our intelligence and all the other intelligence said that they weren't working on a nuke. Oil was in the 60s, and those soldiers that died were still alive, and the hundreds that were wounded weren't wounded.
All of our bases were not bombed.
The bases were intact. A lot of stuff was different, on February 27th before the war started. And so, like, talking about how big of a win it is that we were able to get oil from 126 down to 80. And like, see how awesome this is? That's not going to work. Really is not going to work. It's like Biden bragging that inflation came down from 9.1% to 2 something. I'm like, dude, how'd it get up to 9.1?
No, he'd be bragging from 9.1 to 7.
Yeah.
Like, look.
that's right.
Yeah. It's like, well, it's still at 7.
Yeah.
Before all the COVID spending, we were at like 2.5.
Yeah. Clark says there's no way this is a bad deal. He literally wrote the art of the deal. So, I mean, it's not possible. Have you guys considered that? Yeah, here's the rest of this.
If you guys are willing to honor your obligations, if you're willing to allow real inspections of your nuclear program, then we will welcome you back into the world economy. I think what the president of the United States wants to do is turn over.
They had inspections of the nuclear program. They do it. Can we? We got to walk a tightrope too, because like I want them to do it because we need to stop the war.
Yes.
And we need to focus on things, more important stuff here in America, not increasing prices on everyone for no reason. We need to focus on that. So I want them to do it. And honestly, for them to do it, they're going to have to be able to sell it as a win, or they're not going to have an incentive to do it, which means like, don't we sort of have to go along with it being a win? No, screw that. I'm not. No, I can't do that.
No, I want here's what I actually want. I want the administration to come out and be like, look, this was a mistake.
That's not gonna.
I know it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. But that would be best case scenario. I would vote for them again.
I'd vote for them. Yes.
If they came out and was like, look, this was a mistake.
If they did that, I'd vote to give them more power.
We took a turn. We thought that we could get away with this. It turns out wasn't a good idea. In fact, Obama's plan was pretty good. We're just gonna
hindsight's 2020.
We're gonna re-implement that plan, basically, maybe tweak a few things. In fact, Iran's gonna get a little bit sweeter of a deal now because
with inflation, do the math on it.
That would be like my mind would be blown if we had an administration that could do that. But no, that'll never happen, especially with Trump. That would never happen.
No, it's not. Here's let's see what else he says.
Leaf of 47 years of a failed relationship between the United States and Iran, but that requires the Iranians to actually honor their end of the bargain. So when people say that billions of dollars of assets will be released, that's not true. What is true is that Iran will have a much better and much more prosperous future if they meet the obligations they make in this agreement. We'll, of course, see. That's one of the things we're going to work out in the technical talks that will follow the official signing on Friday.
Okay, so we said a little bit of it there. He didn't officially mention the 300. Let me see if this is the same clip. I hadn't watched that one yet. No, this is a different person asking the question. Let's see what we got.
Walk through some of this. The Iranians are saying that they're going to have access to a $300 billion reconstruction fund. True or false?
Well, Ed, that's the sort of thing they could have access to, funded by the Gulf Coast Coalition, so long as they honor their end of the obligation. I think that one of the things you're going to see, Ed, and people have to be skeptical of this, is that the hardliners in the Iranian system will overemphasize the benefits that Iran gets while underemphasizing all the things that they have to concede and all the things they have to provide in order to get these benefits. So we absolutely are open to the Gulf Coast countries investing in the reconstruction of Iran, but only if Iran ends their nuclear program, ends their enriched stockpile of material, and is really open to an inspections and enforcement regime that gives the American people confidence they're never going to have a nuclear weapon. So I think the dance you're going to see, Ed, which is going to be interesting, is the Iranian media, especially the hardline media, they're going to talk a lot about what they get without talking about what they give. It's important for all of us to correct.
It's also important to realize that our media and our people are going to do the exact same thing.
Exactly.
Too.
And the truth lies somewhere in the in between, probably.
It sounds a lot like if you think about a carrot or stick approach, like the war has been the stick, and now they're going to try the carrot instead, which is $300 billion reconstruction fund, release of frozen assets, which I've seen in the $20 billion range somewhere, if you do these things that we want you to do. Which is also sort of the Obama deal, only it was like $1 billion. But this one's going to be way better because it's more money, and it's going to give them way more incentive to do the right thing. Think about all the money people are going to make with a construction fund that big. Good Lord, $300 billion. That's a lot of money to build stuff in the U.S. You could build like 2 highways for that amount. Just imagine like what you could build in Iran with $300 billion.
Wonder if any American companies are going to be doing any rebuilding over there.
Like, we probably put in the deal there that there should be room for some U.S. banks or investment companies or BlackRocks to get in there.
This is where the real Taj Mahal should be built.
Exactly. The Trump Tower is going to go up in Tehran. That'd be something.
That would.
It'd be pretty crazy.
It reminds me of like a child negotiating. You know, like what I think about is like, okay, we had the Obama deal, which was just bad because it was Obama.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But now they're going to basically make the same deal. Might be slightly different. And looks like Iran might get a little more than they had originally that Trump tore up. And it reminds me of like when I negotiate with Parker when it comes to like eating food. I'm like, all right, Parker, if you have some this grilled chicken that you need, then you can get, like a Reese's.
Mm-hmm.
You can get the treat that you want.
Yeah.
So he's got that deal, and he wants to rip it up, and it's like, okay, well, if I eat, a Butterfinger because it's different, then I can get a Reese's. Like that's his
that's a better deal. He still gets the Reese's.
He still gets the Reese's.
It's a good deal for him
in the end.
And they're saying this stuff like they're never, ours is going to be better because they're never going to have a nuclear weapon. And from what I've seen so far with the negotiations, we don't have the text yet. We don't know what's in the memorandum of understanding or exactly what they're asking for. They're asking for what I've seen, the Trump administration is trying to get 20 years of no enrichment. And right now, Iran is stuck at 10. Now, either one of those, actually, neither one of those are never. Either 10 or 10 years or 20 years. That's not never. That it's 10 or 20 years. And then you have to realize that this is probably not going to be an actual treaty. Because treaties, once they go, once they get the consent of the Senate and you get 2/3 of the Senate, stuff like that, they essentially become law. And this is probably going to be more like an executive agreement that the next executive, if they wanted to, could just come and tear up, just like Trump came in and tore up the Obama deal because it wasn't an official treaty either. And so the other answer is we have no idea what's going to happen in the future. All that's going to matter right now is whether or not we can make this look like a win for right now. And I hope it is a win. I still hope it's a win. Here's another clip of JD Vance. I think he calls out Lindsey Graham in here. Let me see.
Seem to be some significant differences between what we're seeing in the Iranian media. They say they're going to be seeing release of assets as the agreement is signed. They're not going to sign the agreement unless those assets are released. Is that true?
No, George, it's not true. And I'd caution Lindsey Graham and anybody else not to believe the hardliner propaganda in Iran, but to believe what's actually in the agreement. But we'll be releasing the text this week. And what everybody will see is that Iran doesn't get a dime of money unless they perform their obligations. And the money that we're talking about is fundamentally sanctions relief. We're not giving them American money. Not a single dollar of American money will go to Iran. But what we are saying, George, is we're willing to give significant sanctions relief if the the Iranians make the kind of long-term commitments that are necessary to be a normal country, to give up their nuclear weapons program, to stop funding terrorist activities all over the Middle East. And one of the really interesting things, George, you hear people compare this negatively or positively to the JCPOA of the Obama administration. There are all of these ways I could explain that this deal is fundamentally better for the American people than the JCPOA, but the fundamental difference is that the Gulf Coast Coalition, our Arab partners in the region, they hated the JCPOA because they felt that it emboldened Iran to be a bad actor. They love this deal because they feel that it's going to create a totally new dynamic in the Middle East. That's a great...
It's still weird to me that we're talking about the deal as if we've got the deal, and what we're actually talking about is a deal to agree to start working on a deal. But it's still the deal right now. And so that, I don't know.
All the deal is to basically extend a ceasefire.
Yes.
So that we can keep negotiating.
Yeah. And it's like me and you, every time we see each other, we're shooting at each other, you know? And so we do some negotiations, and eventually, like, we get all the paperwork out and we decide, write it down. We're going to sign, we're going to have our party sign that we will get together in a room to work out our disagreements starting
Without
next week
shooting
without shooting at each other. And we're going to agree to that. We're going to sign on Friday, assuming Israel doesn't go ape shit on Lebanon this week, that we're going to sign this on Friday, and then you and I will be able to talk without trying to shoot each other at the same time.
And by the way, you can...
And then we'll work on a deal.
And while that's happening, you can also move your car out of my driveway now.
I can do that.
I'll stop
too.
blockading your car in my driveway.
Exactly. Let's see. More... $300 billion, $300 billion. We all get that. Hegseth is out here, too, talking about stuff. Let's see.
Are you keeping the force posture in place through the 60 days of negotiations and beyond?
Oh, we'll make sure the military option is there. And that's the big difference between this and JCPOA and the way Obama did it. Obama, they begged Iran for a deal, and we bombed Iran and then put in a blockade and then ran ships through and then have restarted when necessary to ensure that they come to the table for a great deal. So our military posture will be whatever it needs to be to ensure they're compelled over this 60 days through the memorandum of understanding that they live up to what they said they would do. The document says Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, won't seek one, won't buy one, won't have one.
JCPOA said that
days,
too.
There'll be negotiations to make that final. But they didn't have the threat of military force the way that we do, that Iran respects in a very way that their regime is more devastated than it's ever been in its 47 years. And that's why they're at the table. So the huge difference
this
is...
deal is better because we have the threat of military force, even though while the JCPOA was in effect, they weren't enriching past 3%. And it didn't take a blockade or
bombing,
billions of dollars or bombing or Americans dying or anything like that for that to happen. But this one's better because it's backed up by military force. So it's going to be better, even though the other one was working when it was worse. So anyhow, does that clear everything up?
Yeah, does that make, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's make sure.
As clear as can be.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. Let me get to Mark Levin. How about we get to Mark Levin? This guy's something else. Let me tell you what. I got a clip from him. First off, I wish I wouldn't have told you who this was from. You probably could have guessed who it was from. I wish I wouldn't have said who we were moving to. Forget that I said this is Mark Levin.
I'll take a guess.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is from last night. And I'm just like, what country is this guy from? Who is he rooting for? What's going on? Listen to how he sees this entire situation. In a period of 2 months, Israel has gone from a great ally and partner in war, fighting by our side against a horrible enemy that has killed thousands of our people, killed tens of thousands of their own people, and was a dire nuclear threat intent on attacking us, to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu being a difficult person who should be thanking us for saving his country from Iran and should get our permission if he wants to defend his people from Hezbollah and Iran and stand down when his country is attacked. And just yesterday, Israel's prime minister avenged the execution of 5 American soldiers by taking out a Hezbollah commander terrorist. And only Israel has been killing Hezbollah leaders who murdered our Marine soldiers, embassy staff, and more. It seems to me a kind word is in order. How does this make any sense? And the only thing I hear from this is like, my God, why don't you just freaking move to Israel, dude? Like, that's how he sees.
That's who he's getting paid by.
But that's, I mean, sure, maybe. Or maybe he's just crazy. And that's how he views the world. And what he thinks about first is Israel. And he sees this whole struggle through the eyes of Israel and what's best for them and not what is best for America. And this is the guy that we have on Fox News at night on the weekends telling our parents what the best thing for our government to do is. And that's sad. He's very upset that we haven't seen the memorandum of understanding yet. He says, here's an idea. If you want people to stop speculating about the MOU, release the MOU. Don't brief a few anointed ones to control the narrative and expect everyone else to sit silently. That's not how our country works. It's going to be signed soon. It takes time for people to digest it all once it is released. Controlling the narrative can only last so long. Now, listen, there's a reason the Trump administration is not putting out the MOU right now. People aren't going to like it. They don't want people talking about what's actually in it all week. So they want to be able to say, oh, that's just Iran talking their smack right now. That's just wait until you see the actual text. You'll see how good you'll see how good this thing actually is. And so I think they're going to wait on putting it out. Now, that when I say stuff like that, it normally means it probably just got released on X, and so we'll see. He says, I've asked for days. Why can't we, the people, see the damn MOU? Not through people briefed by an anonymous person. Honestly, I've never seen anything like this. If it is a great outcome for peace, then release it. Okay. So once again, he's very concerned about we, the people, having a say, getting a look at how we are going to end this war. It's important. That's what the founders envisioned, was that the people should get a say and that the Senate should get a say
in the MOUs.
When we come to an understanding that we're going to start working on a deal. And that's what it's very important to have everyone's input at that point. Not so much important to have input before you get in the war in the first place, but very important to get it when you want to get out of the war. That's when it's time for the people to have a say. Unless all the people want to get out of the war, in that case, screw the people, and we have to keep doing the war. But here's a clip, him talking about this on his show. Let me turn it down because I bet his voice is going to be shrill. Here we go. He looks like he's yelling, right? Let's see how it comes in.
Congress is going to review it because that's not discussed either. Yes, Congress will have to look at this. And most importantly, they're going to look at whether this deal can be upheld, I suspect. Now, this should be treated as a treaty under the Constitution for we constitutional conservatives. But Obama and Congress...
We constitutional conservatives?
Yeah. You're constitutional. Didn't you know that he's a constitutional conservative?
Yeah.
Constitution first, baby, sometimes. You know?
Sometimes.
And all Republicans but one, Tom Cotton, all of them decided not to apply the treaty requirements under the Constitution to the Obama-Iran nuclear deal. So that's where we are. Now, what does the Constitution
by the way, allowed
actually
Trump
say
to tear it up.
Yeah, that is why he got to tear it up.
Yeah.
Which I think Mark Levin was probably happy about when he tore it up. So it's a good thing it wasn't. Now, they wouldn't have had the 2/3 in the Senate, I guess, to make it a real treaty, which we'll talk about here in a second. But a treaty has the effect of law, and it does have to be sort of agreed upon by the Senate. I'll play this clip, and then we'll talk a little bit.
Was followed, Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2.
Now he's quoting the freaking Constitution to us about the power to end a war.
You can't make this up.
Says right here, Congress ends wars. Impeach this guy. We got to keep this undeclared war going. All right, here we go.
The president shall have power, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. The Senate, 2/3 of the senators present concur. Well, Obama realized he couldn't get that. So he conspired not only with his party, but the Republicans to get around it. Because that's a high bar. And it's set intentionally as a high bar by the framers of our Constitution to ensure that any arrangement and any agreement with a foreign power is so beneficial to our country that it not only passes with the support of Congress, but we're going to call it a treaty, and the Senate, which represents the states, at least theoretically, can only approve it with a supermajority.
He's so concerned about it. You know, the Congress has to do this because they got to make sure that it's so beneficial to America. You got to get 2/3 of the Senate to get in on this. And once again, he's going to completely ignore the fact that also Congress is supposed to decide whether or not we go to war.
Because it's that important.
Because it's very important. It should be very, very beneficial for America
to actually go to war.
To go to war.
To risk life, limb, and treasure.
All right, here's 40 more seconds.
Now listen to this. The deal now, like the precedent set by Obama and the Republicans and Democrats in Congress, will require Congress to prevent the deal by 2/3 of both houses. In other words, it's flipped. It's flipped. The process is flipped. So it's highly likely that this deal, despite the hostility of the Democrats and objections by some Republicans who don't believe a deal should be going through at all, it's likely it'll sail through because that's the way the system was perverted.
Kind of like going to war.
War. You know how they've had multiple war powers votes and they failed to vote to stop the war from happening, which has meant that we just de facto stay at war because Congress just won't vote to stop it from happening, even though they're supposed to vote to decide to authorize it to happen. That's also been flipped. He's not mad about that flip. He's mad about the flip that ends the war. Just in case you're wondering where his biases are. Now, this was a clip that went out that sort of said some of the same stuff we just said, criticizing Levin for this statement. He had a response to it saying, propagandists are psycho liars like this guy. If you listen to all I said the opposite. The treaty clause was abandoned under Obama, and given the precedent, will be abandoned this time by Congress. You're a mentally ill fraud. Check out this fool's background. This difference between the power to make and declare war is discussed by the framers. They specifically removed make from the original draft, making the president commander-in-chief. The administration takes that position as well. In fact, the administration agrees with both of my points. You're a lying POS who posts your slop repeatedly or a Putin lapdog. Okay.
The last part.
Let's just,
the
sure.
Putin.
The fascist,
We're bringing Putin
Nazi,
back in here.
Putin. Okay, so he decided to bring up the fact that the founders, the people debating on the Constitution, it did originally say that Congress had the power to make war, and they changed it to declare. And they did, in fact, you can go back and look at the notes from their debates, that they were like, well, like making war, that's like the actions, like carrying out the war. And Congress at that time meets like once a year. This can be real tough to run a war like that if Congress is who's making the war. And so they decided to give that to the president as commander-in-chief. They did not say, like, he still somehow has this idea that in Article 1, they said Congress has the power to declare war. And in Article 2, they said the president can do war anytime he wants.
Let's change it to cakes. Everybody loves cake, and the cake has layers, you know?
Uh-huh.
Okay, look. All right, the president has the power to make cake. Mm-hmm. It's delicious, you know? It's great. But the way it should work is that he can only make the cake whenever Congress authorizes him to make the cake.
Yeah, or declares that it is in fact time to make a cake.
Exactly. So Congress has to come together and say, look, we declare it is cake making time. And the president's like, God, I never thought you'd say it. I'm on it.
Finally.
I'm making this cake for our 250th celebration.
On him to put together all the ingredients, to make sure people are doing their jobs properly, to decide the temperature, and
he oversees the making of the cake as it's happening, as long as Congress has declared. Now, when they do make that declaration, he can make cake for 2 years. 2 years he can make cake, unless Congress gets together and says no more.
Yeah.
But for 2 whole years, I mean, Congress every 2 years has to keep making that declaration if it's going to continue. Because they can only authorize it for 2 years. Well, they can only authorize spending on it for 2 years.
There's information on this. This is gonna not look right on the screen. What if I put it like this? That's closer. You can look at the debate over making war, and Mr. Pinckney opposed the vesting this power in the legislature. That's to make war. Its proceedings are too slow, met but once a year. The House of Representatives would be too numerous for such deliberations. The Senate would be the best depositary, be more acquainted with foreign affairs, and most capable of proper resolutions. If the states were equally represented, blah, blah, blah. There we go. Mr. Butler, the objections against the legislature lie in the degree against the Senate. He was for vesting the power in the president, who will have all the requisite qualities and will not make war, but when the nation will support it.
Oh, interesting right there.
Mr.
Will
Butler.
not make war, but when the nation will support it.
Now, that's Mr. Butler wanting to give that power to the president. Mr. Madison and Mr. Jerry moved to insert declare and strike out make, leaving the executive the power to repel sudden attacks. See, the problem is what they meant by make are the literal actions of war with your military. Striking battles, cannons, shooting, like telling all these people what to do, war itself. And that, like, anyone making decisions over how, when, and all that, when they do that. And so if that's only for Congress, then they're even saying that the president can't direct people to repel sudden attacks. And so, yeah, they wanted to give the president some power to be able to immediately repel sudden attacks. And the people who wrote the freaking thing said that that's why they changed it from make to declare for the Congress and made the president the commander-in-chief of the military, because they thought Congress would be too slow to decide like day-to-day operations of conducting a war. And like there's plenty of information on this. You can go through the Federalist Papers, you can do all that stuff, and you can see exactly what they meant by it. And it burns me up that these people who call themselves constitutional conservatives still decide to I don't ignore it, act like it doesn't exist. There's plenty of information on this. Let's see. Mr. Sherman thought it stood very well. The executive should be able to repel and not to commence war. Make better than declare, the latter narrowing the power too much. Mr. Jerry stood up and said, I never expected to hear in a republic a motion to empower the executive alone to declare war. That's actually in the notes while they were deciding this. There is a material difference between the cases of making war and making peace. It should be more easy to get out of war than into it. War also is a simple and overt declaration. Peace attended with intricate and secret negotiations. Yada, yada. Giving the power to declare war to the executive because not safely to be trusted with it, or to the Senate because not so constructed as to be entitled to it. He was for clogging rather than facilitating war, but for facilitating peace. He preferred declare to make. So, once again, trying to make it much harder for us to get into a war. And you can read fully through all this stuff. Maybe if I think about it, I'll put a link in the show notes to see what they meant by declare rather than make. And, I mean, I was going back and forth with someone about this on X, and I sent them a bunch of links and everything to stuff that Madison said and Hamilton said and all these people, like very, very clear that the president could not just take us to war anytime.
And they were debating whether or not to use two different words, declare or make.
Obvious what they meant by all of this. It's so obvious that it's one of the rare times I will say, and Charlie will say, there is no debate on this, what they meant by the words in the Constitution and what powers they were trying to give. And even like right on its face, if you consider, like I jokingly said earlier, you really think why would they even write that Congress has the power to declare war? And then in Article 2, write something that Mark Levin has determined means that the president can just take us to war anytime he wants. Why did they ever think like, I guess we should go back and erase that whole Congress declares war thing because it seems like Article 2 makes that a moot point because we just said the president could do war anytime he wants.
They didn't have yellow out back then.
No yellow paper. I was expecting you to say white out, but you're right. Yeah. No.
Yeah, parchment out. Whatever.
Parchment out. Let me see what else we got in here.
This is why Scalia is probably one of my favorite justices.
Yeah.
Anybody who's an originalist, I consider myself to be an originalist. I think words have meaning, and that it's really important that you mean what you say, and that the definitions of what you're saying is extremely important. And I think the founders did probably the best job ever of actually literally giving you exactly what they said and exactly what they meant by what they said.
Mm-hmm.
There's like literally no debate about it. It's there. So we don't need an interpretation.
You really don't. I mean,
it's been done.
Here's Lindsey Graham adding his piece as well. He says, I'm pleased to hear the memorandum of understanding with Iran to allow the Strait of Hormuz to open has been agreed to. I will be watching closely the ensuing negotiations regarding Iran's nuclear program and other matters. I'm somewhat concerned that Iran's view of the agreement seems different than what the American negotiating team is claiming. Under our law, any nuclear deal with Iran will be sent to Congress for review and a vote. I look forward to reviewing the final product, and I believe it is imperative that the architect of the deal, Vice President Vance, and his negotiating partners be part of the process and presenting the final deal to Congress. Congratulations to all in getting us to this point. Time will tell. So this is a member of the Senate saying, congrats to you guys. I sure hope that when you bring this to me that I agree that you've done a good job, because actually this is the Senate's job to look at this stuff and not you guys, just under our law.
Well, just think about how upset he is
that
we're not dropping bombs right now.
He's got to be so depressed right now.
He is.
And it sucks for the Grahams and the Levins that they can't just say what they think. I mean, I've been watching what they've been posting, and they've been like, I don't know how to say it so much, but with, kids could be listening, kind of thing. They've been gargling Trump's balls for so long now that now they know how crazy it would be for them to come out and be like, I am against this thing that Trump is doing. Why is he doing this? And why is he, and so they've moved into the realm of just asking questions, not stating like what it is the answer they're trying to lead you to. They're just going to ask questions about it to try to lead you that way because they can't say it because,
Trump might primary them.
Trump might, yeah. Trump might,
he
well,
might call you the worst anchor on Fox News ever.
He might, yeah. Trump might make a phone call and get you pulled off Fox News.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, Trump's one of Mark Levin's last remaining viewers.
You went into went into the lion's den now. You made a deal with the devil. So
okay.
That's how that works.
How do we do 50 minutes on these two things? Good Lord.
That's just the way
How does that happen? I had planned on making fun of Jim Acosta, all the ridiculous things that happened with just people talking about Musk and all that. And I've only got time to play this ridiculous Jim Acosta video before we get out of here in preparation for Don't Bleep of the Week at the end of the week. That's just how ridiculous this clip is. So if you weren't following, there's been battles back and forth about the Kennedy Center. It's a performing arts center, Charlie, where the rich people go and they wear their tuxes and they're like, look at that, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so Trump had decided that he wanted his name on it.
Too.
So it was like President Trump and that guy, Kennedy,
They both got shot.
Exactly. Exactly. They have something in common.
Yeah.
And so he wanted his name on it. The problem is Congress, like this place was created, unfortunately, by law to honor President Kennedy. And so a judge ruled that they couldn't just stick Trump's name on it without Congress deciding that Trump's name could be stuck on it. Now, when it comes to this building, I do not care. I don't care if it burns down tomorrow. Don't care. I don't care if the government spends $1,000 a year on it. Let's just burn it down. I don't care. That's too much money. Who cares about a performing arts center in Washington, D.C.? Literally. It does not matter. Most of that city shouldn't exist, including this building. But it is kind of funny to see how the left has gotten so bent out of shape because they're all, they run the culture and the arts, the colleges and whatever stupid stuff happens in this building all the time. Like it's all lefty nonsense all the time. And they just couldn't go into a building that had Trump's name on it. And so this is like a major victory for them. And Jim Acosta of CNN fame was outside watching them, I think, removing Trump's name from the building, or they were tarping it over because there was a storm coming. They were supposed to have it removed, and they didn't have time because there was a storm coming. So they put a tarp over it and then tried to get the judge to give them another day to remove it.
Their time. This is a giant waste of time, and it's a sign of what a petulant man-child he can be. But as we've been saying all night long and all day long, for that matter, this is very much like watching the Berlin Wall coming down. It is a sign that mankind, that humankind, can stand up against tyranny. But this is
same. It's different, but same.
Okay, and with that, we must remind you that the left is still infinitely more retarded than the right on most things. It is the only good thing about the right is the left these days, or the only good thing about Republicans are Democrats. So,
my God, this is akin to the Berlin Wall coming down.
That's what it feels like. Him watching this.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, let's get.
I can hear Reagan.
Yeah.
Take down that name.
Okay, let's go.
All right, y'all. Well, if you enjoyed that, then share the show around. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate you there. If you want to spend some dollars on this show and support it, then you can join the Fed Haters Club. Join GML.com. Doesn't work. So go to Good Morning. So go to goodmorningliberty.us and click Join GML or sign up on YouTube. Get access to the Discord, hang out with us during the pre-show. Lots of interaction there. So if you want to be part of the Fed Haters Club, do that. Support the sponsors that support the show by visiting the links in the show notes. If you do all of that, we'll be back again tomorrow. Hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.